Ruslan.
If you're following me on Instagram, which you should be following me on Instagram, this past week, after finally getting back on YouTube, me and my family had an opportunity to go to Big Bear, had an amazing time. And I wanted to share some family footage with you guys, but I also wanted to share kind of what I've been getting from this trip, I hate using the word revelation or word, but some stuff that I think you guys will appreciate in terms of my own experience this week, and I wanted to jump right into it. So there's a passage in scripture that some of you guys may or may not be familiar with. It's Matthew 21. Jesus says this twice. He says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to this fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, it will happen. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive, even if you have faith." And he also says the same thing. He echoes this earlier in Matthew 17. He says, "Because of your little faith, for truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." So before I show you guys some family footage, I wanted to first just talk about this passage. This is a passage that's oftentimes co-opted by some of the word of faith prosperity movement, and they kind of take it literally, like, yo, if you can pray this will happen, right? And Jesus talking about moving mountains. If you say this, pick this mountain up, we'll see it'll happen. And the thing is, as I dug away and I looked at some studies, some commentaries on this, what I discovered was that mountains and moving mountains was a metaphor in Jewish culture, Jewish literature, for doing the impossible. And so if we think about mountains in our own lives, what are those mountains that you're looking to get on the other side of, right? What are those things that you think are impossible, but you can sense that other people have done it? Maybe it's breaking through an addiction and finally getting clean and getting away from a habit. Maybe it's financial breakthrough. Maybe it's breakthrough in your relationships, right? What are those mountains that you're looking to get on the other side of? And as I was going to a mountain this week, I wanted to share some footage with you guys to give you guys just some context and some stuff that I feel like God was revealing to me. I'm in Southern California. I am a SoCal to the depth. Like, it don't snow here. It don't do nothing spectacular. We got one season, maybe 1 season and a half, and that's summer and like a little bit of spring, right? And so in my life, I am not a snow person, but my son was upset that Christmas was over and he wanted it to feel Christmassy. So we decided to go to Big Bear. Now, Big Bear is about 100 miles from where we are, and it is about a 3-hour drive because you're driving up in the mountains, right? About, I think it's 7,000, 8,000 feet up and then down. And you're going into this little small town. It just feels very secluded. It feels removed. It feels very cool. And there's snowboarding and there's a big lake and there's all these different things, right? And so as we were going up the mountain, my wife was driving. You guys were like, why'd you let your wife drive into the mountain, dog? Because she asked to. She said, I'll drive. And she wanted to drive up the mountain. I was like, all right, cool. She's going to drive up the mountain. And I was on Instagram. She's like, why don't you do a Q&A thing? Ask me anything on Instagram. So that's what I was doing on Instagram. And so I was getting some footage. And the first thing that I noticed is it started snowing. Yes, you heard me correct. It started snowing. So I'm going to pull up some footage. And once it started snowing, guess what happened after it started snowing? We had to pull over and put chains on the tires. Well, I didn't put anything on anything. We found the guy, the chain management guy, and we paid him $40 to put chains on the tires. So let me pull up some of this footage for you guys, and I want you guys to see this. So as we're getting to the top of the mountain, this is what we see. We see this stop, and it's like it started snowing. That's snow. Yep, that's snow. And there's this gentleman who was out, and they were making sure you had chains on your tires. They're making sure you had chains on your tires, and they were making sure that you were safe. And so I, being the wise man that I am, put $40 out and got it out and made sure this dude put chains. Thankfully, we were prepared. The first time we went, we weren't prepared, but this time we were prepared. And am I glad that we put chains on these tires? Because check out what happened right after that as we're driving. We'll pull this up. This road was completely covered in snow. This road is completely covered in snow. Look at this. Look at these shenanigans. Can you guys see this? This is wild. And so I was terrified, okay? I was terrified. My wife was way cooler. I don't think I said the phrase, oh my gosh, so much in my life, because what would happen is you get these chains on, it's full on snowing, you're going up the mountain, and there's this phrase in Russian culture, I don't know if it translates to English culture, but there's this phrase that said, the slower you go, the further you'll go, right? The slower you go, the further you will go. These chains that were on our tires slowed us down, and we really couldn't drive very fast, which was good because we were driving on snow. And there was one time where we're like making this turn and we're going probably like 20 miles an hour, and the car starts like hydroplaning for a second. And thankfully, you know, my wife, she was fine. I'm freaking out like a little girl. Like, I'm bugging out. My wife is like, chill. She's, you know, my wife is pregnant. She's like super calm about this whole thing, right? And so the higher you go up the mountain, and the more you get exposed to the elements, the more you get exposed to the snow, the more you get exposed to the things that you can't predict, the more you need to slow down, and those chains create a barrier between you, the snow, the black ice, all of these different things. And so the slower you go, the further you'll go. There's so many of us that want that breakthrough right now. There's so many of us that want that thing, that mountain to be conquered today, not understanding that if you go too fast and the elements are too exposed, you potentially put yourself in danger. And this is true in my life, whether it's doing YouTube, whether it's growing an audience, whatever it is. The Lord tends to have these ways of slowing me down. He'll slow me down and let me like really reevaluate what's happening and why it's happening, right? And so as we're going up this mountain, we're driving extremely slow. These chains are slowing us down, and we have to go up the mountain, right? Through the snow, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of feet up. And then check this out, but the scary part wasn't going up. You know what the scary part was? The scary part was coming down. The scary part was coming down the mountain, because you couldn't brake, because if you broke, you would hydroplane, and you couldn't go too fast. So a lot of times we can get to the top, and we could see the breakthrough, and we can say, okay, now we're at the top of this thing that we were looking for. But if we're not careful on the downside, it could be just as detrimental, right? That if you're looking for just a mountaintop experience with God, and all you are looking for is these emotional highs, you're looking for these moments, these experiences, I just want to fall on my face before the Lord, and you aren't prepared for going back into the valley, you got to go slower when you're coming off of the mountaintop. Right? And life isn't, I wish life was just mountaintop after mountaintop. It's not, fam. Life is mountaintop, valley, mountaintop, valley, mountaintop, valley. And if you aren't prepared for the mountaintop, you definitely ain't gonna be prepared for the valley. Right? And so I encourage you guys, as you're thinking about that thing that's impossible for you, as you're thinking, and I'm not talking about money and prosperity, though that stuff is important to some of us, right? Especially those of us that come from nothing, especially those of us come from generational poverty, like financial breakthrough. But it's not just about that. It's whatever. If you finally got that breakthrough in that addiction, right? Maybe you've been struggling with pornography, with lust. You finally get that breakthrough, and you finally hit that mountaintop, and you're like, yo, God's changed my heart. I don't desire these things. But you're not careful when you're going back into the valley. You don't have parameters set. You're not understanding how to ride and not overstep the brake, but at the same time go slow. Going down the mountain is potentially even more dangerous. And so I just want us to be mindful of that. And so we finally make it down the mountain. Guys, it took us, I'm not exaggerating, it probably took us an hour and a half to just get to the mountain, or maybe 2 hours to get to the mountain, but it took us like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get through the mountain. right? To go up and down. And sometimes going up and down the mountain will take you longer than the valley and being in the location that you're trying to get to, right? Just driving through the terrain. So we drive through the terrain. My wife is a G. She's like, yo, I got, she just got it. Like she got it. And all I'm thinking about is this verse. All I'm thinking about is this verse, right? I just keep thinking about, if you have faith like a grain of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you, right? And then Jesus again repeats it in Matthew 21:21. He says, truly, truly, I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown to the sea, it will happen, and whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. So I'm sitting here, I'm processing this. We finally get to our destination. Now we got these chains on, right? Now these chains, you can't go more than 30 miles an hour with these chains. Thankfully, we get there. And let me show you guys the very first thing that happens when we get to the Airbnb. Okay, so my son, I'm gonna clown him a little bit, but my so I know I love you guys because I'm showing y'all like the most like intimate family stuff. And my son, no snow gear on, right? No snow gear on, but he's just excited. He hasn't seen snow like this. Like he's 6 now. He hasn't seen snow like this, so he has this nothing on. I think these are snow boots, and that's all he had on was snow boots. These regular like pajama pants, and this man is like, yo, I'm gonna just walk through the snow, right? Check this out.
We just got here. You wanna go in the snow already?
Yeah, because I never got to walk in.
Come on.
Watch this.
This man. You okay?
I'm back into the house. I don't remember.
You okay? All right, stay right there.
So we get through our mountains. We get through the mountaintop experience. This is our getaway as a family. We're enjoying ourselves. And finally we made it through the rough terrain. Finally we got up, we got down. We're there. We're pulling in. Levi is excited. But isn't his look at this man's face, yo. Y'all look at this man's face. In his excitement, he's a little reckless, right? In his excitement, he's a little too confident, right? And in my life, if I'm honest with you guys, I've done a lot of things. I've done music. I've ran a boutique label. I'm doing this YouTube thing. When you finally reach the impossible, for me, the impossible was going full time with music, right? For me, the impossible was developing an income off my YouTube, my AdSense. When you finally reach the impossible, when that mountain finally moves for you, and you get to your oasis, you get to your deliverance, right? You could be a little reckless. You start feeling yourself a little. You forget that just 30 minutes ago, I was praying to the Lord Jesus, please give us traveling mercies. Please give us traveling mercies. Let us make through. Levi, we gotta be careful. Levi, don't say anything to mommy. You gotta be careful. Don't distract mommy. Just 30 minutes ago, I was praying. We was being extra cautious, and now I'm, Levi's reckless, going through the snow and doing his thing, right? And so in your pursuit, a lot of us are just caught up in the mountain, just getting through the mountain, right? Moving the mountain going through. Okay, guys, if you're persistent enough, if you keep pressing into that thing, I don't care if it's breaking addiction, I don't care if it's financial breakthrough, career breakthrough, whatever it is. If you're persistent enough and you're going after something God wants you to go after, which is a whole nother thing, you'll get the breakthrough. You'll get the breakthrough. But who you are on the other side of the breakthrough can potentially leave you in situations like this where you fumble around and you fall into the snow because you're feeling yourself a little too much and you're not really with the snow. You ain't never been in the snow like this. You don't really understand one flat, bam, you're just covered and you're just a mess, right? So we have to remain humble. And I told you guys after I reflected on my time off YouTube, the 3 things I learned. One of them was just consistently being aware that it's not about me, that this entire thing is not about me, that it's not about my agenda, that it's ultimately about God using me in whatever way he sees fit. And growing in humility, if you think you've arrived in humility, you definitely haven't, right? Because very few people, if ever, arrive in humility. First time me and my wife went to Big Bear, it was like, oh gosh, how long ago? It was 15 years ago. We weren't married yet. I think we were about to be engaged. We were reading the 5 love languages. And the first time we went to Big Bear, we weren't prepared. We were not prepared. I'm talking jeans, hoodie, Jordans, right? This time when I went to Big Bear, you guys know what was up? Your boy was prepared. All right, I look like I came out of a 1997 Bad Boy and Mace video, right? With the guy, with the goggles on my face, the yellow jacket, the beanie, the hoodie, right? I was prepared this time, and I'll show you guys this little clip. Is me on a sled going down this thing, which I thought was hilarious, but I was prepared. I came prepared. Oh gosh! Oh gosh! You're never fully prepared of what's on the other side of the mountain. You're never fully tapped in. You may think you are, but you're not. You're not. And you can be prepared. You can drive slow up the mountain. You can drive slow down the mountain. You can avoid getting cocky, but you're never fully tapped in to the elements, because you're not used to living in those elements, right? The folks, you could tell who were the people from the mountain and who were the people that weren't from the mountain. The folks from the mountain, they just walked with a different swag, right? They just had a different confidence. You drive past, we're all bundled up. The folks that live there, they'd be out there with shorts and a t-shirt on, shoveling snow. You know, and I'm just like, what in the world? So you could easily tell who was and who was not from the mountain. But you're never prepared until you've immersed yourself in the elements. You're never prepared until you've done life in the breakthrough. And then once you do that, you will be more prepared. And so remember I told you guys we have to pull over and get the chains put on, right? As we were going up the mountain and start snowing, we had to put the chains on. Well, this morning I had to get off and I had to take the chains off. I got up and, this morning I got up and my wife was like, you should go take the chains off. Now I didn't want to take these chains off. We've been driving around with the chains. It ain't been snowing in 3 days. And I've been like, I ain't taking these chains off, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I go to take the chains off. And the chains, they have a hook on the front, and I passively watch the video on for it. I unhook the chain, and then I take them and I slide them to the back behind the tire, and I do the same thing on the other one, and now they're just loose, hanging on the back of the tire, and I'm like, wait, like these chains don't come off. So I'm sitting there trying to take the chains off. I'm like telling my wife, like, hey, like, you shouldn't have told me to take the chains off. Like, why'd you tell me to take the chains off? You know I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't do this kind of stuff, right? And she's like, just relax. Like, my wife is always like the calm one. Just relax. So we're sitting there. I full on called AAA. I called AAA. And I'm like, it's been about an hour at this point. I'm trying to get these stupid chains off, right? And I'm calling AAA. And I'm like, yo, like, cause you can't, those of you guys that got chains, you can't drive more than 30 miles an hour from the chains. There's no more snow, and we're taking a different route out of the mountain. And so I'm like, man, this chain won't come off. I'm calling AAA. I'm covered, underneath the car. And finally, right as AAA is like about to text us on our way, I look behind, and there's this little, remember I told you there's a latch on the front, there's a little latch on the back. Right? There's a little latch on the back of the tire, right? And on the back of the chain behind the tire. I couldn't find it because I'd never done it before, right? And remember, I didn't put the chains on, so I didn't know how the chains went on. And all I had to do was unlatch this little thing. I'm sitting here frustrated at my wife, like, we should have just paid somebody to take the chains off, right? Like, I'm just super in the flesh, right? And all I had to do was look behind the tire and take the chain off, right? And then I did it to the other side, and then the chain just literally, like, she pulled up, and then they just came up. We rolled them up, And some of you guys are like alluding to the, you know, break every chain, right? The chains that life can impose on us, right? Coming off. But more importantly, what I discovered is I feel way more comfortable about taking the chains off after I've taken the chains off. Right? So many of us get intimidated by stuff. And I'm talking to folks right now. I'm getting people to jump into this YouTube space, mentors of mine that I'm like, yo, like you guys could do this. And they're intimidated by technology, right? They're intimidated by a computer, by learning how to live stream and follow this format I'm doing. And I'm like, listen, like you just got to push through it. But I find myself that a lot of times with simple things like taking chains off a tire, I get so intimidated off of a simple task that I don't slow down and examine what I'm supposed to do to simply just take the chains off. But after I did it the first time, I was like, oh, I could probably put these chains on the next time, right? And I'm like, yo, I could definitely, like, had I known then what I know now, this would have went way smoother. But the issue is you don't know until you go through the process of taking the chains off. Don't be intimidated by doing something so simple as taking chains off a tire like I was this morning, freaking out in the flesh, frustrated with my wife, right? Intimidated. These are just snow chains. Like, I couldn't have been the only person stuck, and we could not, I tell you what, it took us a minute to find the video with our version of tires and chains on YouTube to figure out that there was this bottom clip on the back that we had to undo. But once we figured it out, the whole thing came up. It took us an hour and a half to find something that could have taken us 5 minutes had we slowed down and went through the process. But I was intimidated. I was ignorant. I hadn't done the research really. Like I passively watched the video. But the moment I slowed down, the moment we thought about it, the chains came right off, right? And I tell you what, I'm probably not putting those chains on myself next time we go into the snow, just to keep it a buck. Like if I could pay for somebody $40, I'm gonna pay somebody $40 to do it for me. But I tell you what, I could get those chains on the tires if I needed to, if we were in an emergency. And 2, I could definitely take the chains off because I went through the repetition of taking them off. So my point in all of this is don't be intimidated to try new things. Don't be intimidated because something's out of your wheelhouse, okay? When you are pursuing moving that mountain, when you're pursuing the impossible, when you're pursuing something that you don't even think is possible right now for you, and again, that could look any type of way. You know what that is for you. That you have to factor in all these different variables. The slower you go, the further you go. The upside, the going up is dangerous, but coming down is even more dangerous. Don't get too cocky once you make it into your oasis, but don't get too cocky once you make it to your destination. And don't be intimidated by new things, because the way you get through the advancement of these things is just trying stuff and not being intimidated. And I say this all the time. I say this all the time to my creator friends. Don't be intimidated. Pick up something new. Try something new. You'll be surprised at what you are naturally good at, what clicks for you. Be curious, right? Jesus said, have faith like a child, right? Having that childlike faith. If we're curious, as we pursue the impossible, if we're curious as we pursue the breakthrough, if we're curious as we're trying to get to and through the mountains in our lives, I promise you guys, you will find the breakthrough. It's just going to take a little longer, but you'll get further in the grand scheme of things. So hopefully that was encouraging to you. If it was, give this video a like. Let me know what you think about it. I appreciate y'all. Peace.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Joshua the King came down and bore it all. Yeah. Conversations front of the fireplace. All of my mistakes how do I erase? Wanna operate at a higher pace. Birth pains causing the body to dilate on a first name basis with the worst pain facing.